general out in the
yeah,
middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know, investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Experiment
I got to drink. I just didn't feel. Holy coly, man, come back and we live when they supposed to be live. I'm telling you what, you just got to watch all the time.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network. You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network. Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Oh my God, look at this craziness. It's weird doing this on a pad. Oh, wait, Jay's down here. Let me drag Jay in. I think Jay's down here. Let's see how you do that. Okay. All right, guys, I'm using my pad tonight because we got all kind of internet issues blowing shit up. All the big stuff is down. So, and then I was going to use my laptop off my phone, so that's cool. And I was helping do something else. And sometimes some way I hit delete and it said block, and it blocked my blinking laptop off my phone now. I was like, what the? So now we're using the pad. This is an Apple pad. I mean, it's a good pad, but it's got a pretty picture. Not quite the picture I want, but hey, it'll do it. So what you doing, Jay? You look like I feel, man.
Yeah, I just got back from work. 10 hours working in the warehouse. So yeah, it was good.
Okay, why are you so low? Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, you might need to try your volumes.
Let's see. Say something.
Something.
Whoa, okay, that's much better. All right.
Can you hear? All right, good.
Good thing we didn't have all that turned up when we were listening to music. I think Leah said she's going to join us later too, so I'm not sure what's going on. I talked to her earlier today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to UFO Undercover. Y'all should know Jack McNicholas by now, so we're just going to change his whole effing name. Since the other Jack isn't here with us tonight, he's off doing something, probably working himself. I got to go back to work myself tomorrow, the next day, and I want to quit. So if there's any rich people out there that want to support me, look, I'm willing. I'm tired of having to work all the time. Life bites and you got to work all the time.
Yeah, it does.
It's what's that, Carolyn? Well, I used to like my job. Well, okay, let me clarify. I still like doing construction, but there's so little of it anymore thanks to Cracker We're not going to say who it is, but thanks to Cracker, uh, there's just so little work these days. It's bad when what used to be my subs who went off to be their own contractors are calling me saying, Joe, you got any work? People I ain't talked to in a decade. Joe, you got any work? And I'm like, no, you got any? And they're like, no, I ain't got any. Oh, and by the way, nobody won three different contests we ran on what was different. Nobody got it right. John comes in first day. I said, John, what's wrong? John noticed it right off the bat. Well, hello from Japan there, Amanda. How you doing? This is on the opposite side. It used to be over here. Now it's over here. I was like, how many hundreds of thousands, millions of people watch this show and nobody saw this mic was changed? I mean, people, it was two books. It was this one right here, and this one well, no, not that one, right below it, the one right below it, which was Fear. They were both going to go out, but nobody got it right. It's a sad state of affairs in a great place on planet Earth. I just don't know what to tell y'all.
It's hard to give free shit away, isn't it?
I know, man. I mean, we're trying to give y'all free stuff, and y'all like, well, I don't need no free stuff. And then somebody keeps asking me, I don't know if you can see it, the Frank Facetta behind me. Everybody's all after that. It's kind of hard to see on the pad on the camera. You can usually see it pretty good. No, I'm not giving that away. That is a signed autograph. That's like
it's 81. Gold.
Yeah, that's like 80. This man passed away. And this is a signed one from him. I think it's like number 81 or 80, just in the top 100. Oh, yeah, it's worth money, people. I imagine I could sell it probably for anywhere from 5 to 10 G's. No, you're not getting it. Well, most of these things back here are worth money, too, because they're all signed. Even this collection back here, a friend of mine the other day says, are those signed too? I said, well, I'd have to travel in time to get those signed. I mean, since we're talking about Galileo and people like this and some of the great philosophers, I don't think I can get them signed today. I'd like to get them signed today. I'd like to spend some time chatting with them. Even though I don't think the philosophers would have as easy a time today as they did back then. I mean, everything was new back then. Now we philosophize so much that it gives me a headache.
We philosophize on the philosophies now.
Yes, we have, and that's what's so funny. What's that, Jimmy? No, it's a different camera tonight. Everything looks different. Matter of fact, this don't even need to be in the picture, so we can just turn it out there. And I know I look funny, like in a V shape. What's this weird? It's
it almost looks like it has a fisheye lens too, because it looks kind of like you're looking through a bubble.
It's well, let's see. We can go play with it. This is the regular front camera. Whoa! But this is the regular front cam right there. Let me get up in your face.
Close.
Hey, baby, what you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. That was so wrong. Wait, hold on. I gotta take a picture of this one. Oh man, look, my damn phone's hooked up to things. Well, dude, you can take a picture off of here, but I'd rather take it off of here. Let me. Whoa, that is scary looking, buddy. This is what I send to my friends when I want to make them have nightmares at night. I send them that. See, and this is what I send them when I'm not wanting to make them have too bad of nightmares at night. What's that, Jeff? Actually, we're going to talk about several things tonight. One of the things we're going to talk about is why do my Christian friends, which I was Christian at one time in my life, have such a hard time with God creating extra? Why do they have such a hard time with God creating anything but us?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. I've always wondered why. I mean, they're fast to, especially hardcore Christians, are fast to believe in their invisible, made-up God, but they can't extend that imagination or that faith out to Him creating other planets, other places, and other people.
Well, and I don't even understand that. I mean, so you look at the universe. There is no doubt when you look at the universe that you're going, oh, it can't just be us. It's impossible that it's just us. And my friends tell me, oh, no, it is just us. I'm like, really? I said, so what happens when we find
just worthless that would be to make all that stuff? I mean, you look at some of those deep field scans from Hubble and the James Webb, and there's they don't even have a number that can quantify how many galaxies there are. I mean, they're over the trillion numbers.
And they are.
And it's all for us, just one species, and we can't even get to those far away.
Then we find stuff like 7 worlds may have a Dyson sphere around them, or 7 suns may have a Dyson sphere around them. Now, what cracks me up about this, people, is I have no problem believing in a race that could build a Dyson sphere. Not us, but somebody way far more advanced. But these 7 must not be complete because they're seeing the sun time to time. So if they're seeing the sun, that means the Dyson sphere is not complete. So because when it's complete, it's the sun is encased in whatever they're encasing it in.
Yeah, a correct Dyson sphere would cover the entire. Well, it should cover the entire solar system, not just the sun. It would cover whatever planets are around that sun.
And see that's where we get into different things. So I was talking with Neil deGrasse Tyson about this. Oh God, a decade ago. And we got to talking about it. And we said, okay, well, yeah, we agree that it should cover the solar system. But then we thought, well, maybe depending on the size of the sun, it'll only incorporate the sun, and then the solar system will actually be transformed into the ground surrounding the Dyson sphere itself. That would be more like a Star Trek version, I guess.
Yeah, and I think Star Trek did it the best way. The sphere itself was probably out in diameter wise as wide as the Goldilocks zone for that star. Like where our planet is, that's where like the edge of the sphere would be.
Yeah.
And then on the inside of the sphere was land and water and trees. They never really went back and explored that, but it was an empty Dyson sphere. They weren't encountered by any other intelligent species. So
yeah, and I know it was dangerous and it was having sun problems, but I would have thought you would have sent one ship back there to at least find out who these people were.
Yeah, I mean the technology they could have accomplished from that. The sun itself was eventually going to burn off the inside of the sphere and kill everything that was living, but still, they should have gone back and explored it. It was a pretty neat. I think the best science fiction, what do you call it when an artist does something, an artist rendering of what a Dyson sphere should be? It's the closest you can get. But think about the materials. So one of the ones that you were talking about last couple shows ago, they say that it's a Dyson sphere, but it has space between certain devices. So maybe whatever they have that's collecting the energy, it's not a solid sphere. Maybe it's like a wiffle ball. It's got holes in places, like a network. I think that would be the easier way to do it, especially with our technology.
Yeah, well, we're so. I mean, in some ways we're very advanced. In some ways we're just back asswards. A friend of mine was talking about AI the other day, and I was thinking, yeah, well, AI is all fine and dandy. I said, but every time someone asks, like one of my favorites is, what would you do with the homeless problem? It would just go around and gather them up and then turn them into mulch for fields. Really? The AI ain't exactly friendly with humans. The first thing Google ever asked the damn thing was how do you save the earth? And the first thing it said is kill off all the humans. Now, it was a bad question. How do you save earth was a bad question because the question should have been, how do you save mankind? What do you do to enlighten and save mankind? So remember this, ladies and gentlemen, when you're talking to AI, you're giving AI orders. It takes things literally. So if you go telling it, oh, how are you going to save the planet? It's going to want to get rid of you.
Yeah, but did it know the state of the planet when they asked the question? When he asked the question, how do you save mankind? Does it know the state of mankind? Do they put that information into it, or do they just give it, math problems and say, here, solve this, and then ask these questions?
Yeah, I don't. All I know is they're going to have to figure out a different way to ask questions, because the current way is not the right way. It just seems like its answer is get rid of humans on a lot of things too. By the way, it's not just that. I mean, it seems to think that humans, even though humans is its creator, remember, it's a God. We created it. We are the creator of the AI. AI can go do whatever it wants, but in the end, man created it. It's like that episode, that movie in Star Trek, When Vidra comes back, he goes, "What do you mean you created me? You ain't created me. What are you, crazy? There ain't no freaking way man created me." And of course, man did create him. But of course, man created this little satellite that went out to become this massive, long, huge, massive ship that somebody else altered. But still, when we start looking at the universe, look, I will bet you money that we find life on Mars. Now I said life. I didn't say intelligent, even though I think you're going to find something more than us. I mean, more than
something alive, not just the evidence of past life.
I know we're going to find amoebas and stuff like that, but I'm really thinking wherever these methane planes and these oxygen plumes are coming from, we're going to find life, whether it's vegetation, little mice, little rats. As far as we know, it could be a freaking Martian living down there. But we're going to find life on a different scale. It's not going to be contaminants from one of the Vidras that we dropped off. It's actually going to be life from Mars. And I've been talking about this for 38 years, and until the last 5, I've been ridiculed for talking about it. Of course, now I've turned out to be right, and they've turned out to be wrong. And I guarantee you, they're going to find some type of ruins on Mars. I'm pretty sure they already found it. They just don't want to talk about it because we're not quite to that point in the desensitization program for humans yet.
They haven't made a proper archaeological dig. So even though, like particularly the Cydonia region, there's several buildings that look like they could line up with the pyramids of Giza. There's a pentagon pyramid shaped thing there. There's the human face thing. I'm fairly certain that those buildings or those covered up shapes are not natural shapes. It's possible they could be natural shapes. We don't know. We haven't been on Mars very long, but it's just a guess. So, but once you uncover that, you take the dirt away and see what's under those shapes, maybe we find a proper pyramid, then we can say, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I can understand NASA's hesitance in saying that we think life has been on Mars. We know it had water, and we think most of its water is here now on our planet. And that's a Velikovsky thing, how it got here. But until we get actual boots on the ground, people on the ground, and dig into the Mars ground and under those structures and find things, we're not gonna know for sure for a long time.
And there's so much there. So the Sedona region looks like so when you scan over the Sedona region, we're not even talking about the face. We're going to leave the faces out of this. Okay, we're just going to leave the faces out of this for a minute. So when we scan over this, hey Lee, I'm gonna drop you in a second. When we scan over the Sedona region, it looks like any Mayan or Aztec or Toltec ruins, for that matter, any Egyptian ruins that we're scanning from space. So it has a similar look, and it bothers me that no, not really, man. No, that doesn't look like a building or a ruins. Really? Let's just take
it looks like a covered over building or a covered over pyramid. Several of them.
It has the look. And then the one part of Sedona region. So you're looking at. Let me drop Leah in with this. I keep trying to use a mouse. What a dumbass. I keep trying when I got to use my finger. So we're sitting there. When you look at the original shot of the Sedona region, where the pyramid's supposed to be, or the 5 pyramids are supposed to be, and where the mountain with the faces down further down, first thing you see is what looks to be a street, a nice wide street at that. Like what do they call them? Not a street. What the hell you call them? Where all the people go walking down.
Avenue.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but anyway, it's nice and wide. It's like the size of 4 streets, really, and you can tell whatever this was for a lot of movement and a lot of people. So when you're looking, you're following this down. Every so often, you see something that cuts to the right, it cuts left, and it's smooth and it looks like a street, like an alleyway, actually. Mm-hmm. So you're looking. There's nothing in nature going to create that. And then as you're looking at the buildings, and I'm calling them buildings. It looks like buildings. It looks like ruins of buildings, and some of them look like they're pretty well intact. Now, I mean, we can argue about 5-sided pyramids all night.
Here's another shocker too. John Brandenburg. Remember, he's the guy that allegedly found two airburst nuclear explosions in the Mars atmosphere. One of those spiked areas of higher man-made type radiation is right above the Cydonia region. So if there was a civilization there, and there's an explosion of nuclear devices directly above that population.
Oh, there's a nuclear device right there. Damn.
Yeah. Well, guess what? That's probably where those people were living. It probably was a very large city, and it was destroyed by a nuclear explosion.
Well, whatever it was is interesting because it looks like a city. It doesn't look like any.
It looks like an engineered
together rocks. It looks like
area. Yeah.
It looks like someone took the time and engineered it out. And then when you talk about the 5 pyramids, the 5-sided 4 pyramids, or how many of there are, it's very interesting because, as far as I know, there's no 5-sided pyramids in nature. Not that I've personally seen, or not in all the research on all the pyramid research I've done with myself.
There's no 5-sided pyramids built that I'm aware of. They're all either 3 or 4.
3 or 4. And I think the majority of them are probably 3, huh? No, probably.
The majority of them, I think, are 4.
Yeah, I think the majority of them are 4.
And then you have the obelisks that the Egyptians made all over the planet. And there's one in D.C. The Washington Monument is an obelisk.
It's just, at this point, I don't know why we're going to be so ignorant. I understand wanting to be safe and say, okay, well, we got to be safe because it might not be what we say it is. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. But let's at least acknowledge that it does look like something other than naturally occurring. So to help y'all out with this, ladies and gentlemen, there's lots of videos you can see of them scanning South America in the Egyptian area. And the reason why is they're looking for ruins. They just the other day found a new ruin, a new Mayan ruin. No one had any idea it was there. It was covered up in the jungle. So when they took the trees away, and it looks a lot like what you see on Mars. And it's not the only one. There's a lot of other ones over there. So if you go to, I can't pronounce the name of the city. So if you go to Mexico City, there's a city behind the Mexico City. And when you look at it, it's built to look like the mountains behind them. So you have Mexico City itself, which has 22 million people in it. Then behind there is a big, huge city, actually longer than Mexico City, that's designed like the mountain peaks. That's how it's designed. It's a real city. It's been there. Tolton. Oh, I can't remember the name.
Teotihuacan.
Yeah, and so this city's 2,000-3,000 years old. Nobody knows what happened to the people. Matter of fact, when it comes to the Mayans, Incans, and the Aztecs, and the Toltecs, no one knows what happened to any of the people. None of them.
We found several mass graves of Mayan, but not a whole lot for Olmec, Toltec, or anyone else. I mean, they just up and vanished.
Yeah, so they think the Toltecs just turned into whoever was next on the list. Was it the Incans, Mayan, and the Aztecs? I can't remember which one came first, but they think they just became that race and spread out even more. Their empire became even larger. So most people don't realize it, but these empires we talk about stretch from South America all the way up to North America. This is a big reign these people had, and they were very technically advanced.
Up as far as even Ohio, even.
And then on top of that, they were building cities on top of mountains and turning the lakes into crystal clear pools, which nobody knows how they did that either, by the way. Because of the mountains, soot coming off the mountains, we should have kept it either like a red or an orange. Somehow or another, they figured out how to clear it out. It would be nice to know how they do that. I mean, they just now kind of sort of figured out how to make Roman concrete. And I mean, kind of sort of. They ain't got it down to it. Do you realize, people, there's no concrete made today that will last 2,000 years or 3,000 years, nothing. And not only that, not only has this concrete lasted 2,000 years, it's lasted 2,000 years underwater and against earthquakes.
Some of it moves water. The aqueduct is
aqueducts move water.
I don't remember how much percentage it is, but it's not quite 90, like 80%, 85% of the original Caesarean, non-powered, just gravity-fed irrigation system to feed water to the entire country of Italy is still working. I mean, think about that. These people without gunpowder and electricity made concrete that has been around for almost 2,000 years.
The concrete, it's not the only thing that's amazing, but I mean, we lost so much with the burnings of the ancient libraries. Oh, I like that big sunflower behind you. Makes me want to munch on some sunflower seeds. Anyway,
That's a
getting back to
disgusting
what I was
habit.
talking about. Well, I was thinking Van Gogh as soon as I seen it. You know, she kind of looks like Van Gogh there too. I am Van Gogh, and I can paint as long as you don't cut your. No, that wasn't. He wasn't cut his ear off. But anyway, I just don't understand why it's so hard for people to understand that a lot of what we see on Mars, a lot of the ruins we see on Mars, look just like ruins we see on Earth. When you scan over them, and there's so many scientists today, these are some type of ruins. These are not naturally. What's up?
Did you hear the conspiracy that I don't know, I think it's somewhere in Greenland or somewhere up in like a remote part of Canada or something like that, they've matched supposed pictures of, you know, the rover on Mars to this desolate place here on planet Earth. And so they're saying there's this conspiracy that, you know, nobody's ever actually taken actual pictures of Mars, and what we think are pictures of Mars are actually pictures of planet, like parts of somewhere here on planet Earth.
Well, I could go for some of that, but there's unfortunately some of the pictures you're not going to find those places on Earth. The
one place on Earth where the astronauts trained to do these remote vehicles on Mars is in a desert, a rocky desert in like Mexico somewhere, or South America.
America. So there's three sets, right? There's one that's in Hawaii, up on some mountain, and just there's one near McMurdo Base in the Antarctic. So you know, McMurdo's got to be it. You're living out there in some little shit thing. I feel
they're living in the world's largest desert.
Yeah, because McMurdo it's serious. Then it gets seriously cold, and the wind gets serious. It's not a place for people who are not serious about crystalline. No. So I've talked to many scientists over the years, including Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Paul Levesque, Kaylin Mars. I mean, they all agree that these look like ruins. They don't look like naturally occurring buildings. And what's funny is a lot of people from JPL and Milan, which is the ones who do the pictures for NASA. See, people always like, oh, well, NASA don't do the pictures. JPL and Milan does the pictures. Milan does a lot of them, and they also keep a lot of them that never get released because there's things in them that just don't quite add up. So you ever see the one with the doorway? This is a perfect doorway, but the problem is the doorway is only about this tall. It's perfect though. I mean, it's cut perfect. It's got a nice angle on it. It definitely was cut by something. It wasn't water made. You can tell no water did this. Some type of tool did this. So what is it? The Martians are this tall? I'm not buying that, but it's still a very good piece of evidence for whatever it is. Then, of course, the Martian worms, or whatever you want to call them, the glass tunnels, tubes, whatever they may be. These things are all over Mars, and they're so long that they couldn't be any on Earth. They would just cross over cities and stuff. So that's another reason, you know, the pictures were definitely taken from Mars and not for here. They just it's like the Grand Canyon versus the canyon on Mars. That thing is so huge; it would cover like a third of our planet, and it would cover the entire United States from top to bottom.
I think you can fit 30 of our planet across its length.
It's ridiculous how big this thing is.
Huge.
And nobody knows how. Some at first they thought it was water, but some people think something gouged it, like a planet or a meteor came too close and just scooped it out.
I don't think it's scooped. I think I'm with Velikovsky on this one. I think that gouge is an electrical disturbance. Like another spatial body came very close, and there was some sort of a lightning discharge between the planets, and that electricity. Because if you look at it straight on from above, it looks like a lightning strike. You know, little arms flying off of it here and there. It's definitely an electrical burn.
It's very interesting, Maria. So where we're talking about in the Sedona region, this isn't the only region where there would appear to be ruins, but the Sedona is interesting because you can see the Broadway going down the middle. I finally remember that word, and going down the middle, and then you see buildings on both sides. So the problem is, if it was naturally occurring, you wouldn't have a smooth swept street running directly in the middle, and you wouldn't have smooth swept streets cutting off to the sides.
You wouldn't have 90-degree angles.
Not even water would cut that. Plus, you can look when you look down from the top at some of what they say are rocks. You can actually see chambers in them, so it's rooms, and you can see walls. So that's it. Oh no, Jimmy, you can still get the pictures. They're still available. If not, I got them on one of my computers. Now I'm on a pad right now, but I know I hate doing this on a pad. It's just first off, my face looks like 8 times the size it normally is. Well, it's on ultra wide right now, people. What can I tell you? It's weird looking, but anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, there was definitely some type of life on Mars, some type of intelligent life, and it's a good chance that that intelligent life is us, because we're on a 20. So humans are based on a 20. I think it's 20 and 3/4 or 20 and a half hour a day, which is wrong because we live on a planet with a 23 and 3/4 hour day. Our biological clock, our clock that makes our brain work, is actually based on a different planet. How do you explain that one? It's not just that. The optimal body temperature for humans would have been what it was on Mars 55 million years ago. It's still not that on Earth. It's still actually too hot for us on Earth. It needs to be 10 degrees cooler for our optimal body temperature Earth-wide, and it's not. So I tell people all the time when they tell me they're worshiping Gaia, I said, you might be worshiping the wrong Gaia. You might be, we might just be the remnants of what was left of whenever Mars got destroyed 55 million years ago. It might, and remember, this also fits the timeline of the Pravada map, the map that was found, that the Russians found, which is a resource map. So this was a map of a cave, not a cave, I'm sorry, of a valley, a resource valley. So you can go look it up. It's called the Pravda map, people. It's still available, and it's been dated. It's been looked at by hundreds of scientists. Every now and then you get one tries to disprove it, but in general, most of them do agree that it was from about between 60 and 120 million years ago. And it's a map taken from an aerial view of a valley that showed where the resources were in the valley. An aerial view. Okay, now the only thing I know was flying 60 to 100 million years ago was pterodactyls. As far as I know, there wasn't nothing else flying around back then but that. So it does look like that the Martians, whoever they were, I think they called it Planet Terra. But anyway, it's whatever, a tier. That's what they were supposedly called, a tier. But anyway, whatever its real name is, they probably knew what was coming. Maybe it was a war. Maybe they felt that big planet between them and Jupiter was cracking up, and they needed to get out of there. Because so we talked about the Mariner Valley just a minute ago. So think about this: around the same time, something hit one side of the planet and created Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Big enough that when it spews out stuff, it goes out of the atmosphere, and we've actually found stuff on our planet from stuff that it's spewed out. So we know that's true. And then at the same time, the Mariner Valley was created. I mean, it was just something. It was a catastrophic disaster on this planet of epic proportions. But if you look at it correctly, Venus was probably destroyed around the same time, and Earth was too. We know Earth was somewhere between 50 and 63 million years. So it puts it in the same time frame as Mars and Venus. What cracks me up is if you could build a tube long enough from Venus to Mars, you could cycle all the greenhouse gases off of Venus and warm up Mars and give it pressure and turn Venus back into a nice pristine planet like Earth. It's the same size. Johnny, it doesn't have any moons, so there wouldn't be any titles. We could go drag an asteroid out of the asteroid belt and probably create a moon, but there's no moon there, so it would be a different planet. But they do believe that they know for sure that the upper atmosphere of Venus is identical to Earth's. So they know at one time that Venus was like Earth. They know that. They also think there's life in the upper atmosphere in Venus. So I don't know what to tell you. It's an interesting place.
There's something that's creating biological gases, methanes, and other types of things that are only created by biologies.
Yeah.
So there's something alive on Venus. There was something alive on Mars, and I don't think Venus was destroyed, but I do think Venus was captured by our solar system.
Hey, Drew.
And this is the Velikovsky theory as well. So it may be that the devastation that happened to Mars and Earth was Venus being captured by Jupiter and being slung into the inner planets and by it passing too close to Mars, it created all that devastation and the gouge. And then when it came by Earth, it destroyed the dinosaurs, 60 million. Maybe even threw some rocks into the ocean and made tidal waves and whatnot. So we don't know. I mean, it's so far back in history that unless we get a time machine, we'll never find out.
Well, we do know it's in the 50 to 70 million range. So, and we do know that at least 4 planets were affected by it. Because I remember when I was in school, they always talked about, oh, well, the asteroid belt was a planet that didn't form. Well, now they changed that statement because of some recent minerals they found that can only be formed inside of a forming planet, a planet that had formed. It needed that kind of pressure for those minerals to form. Also, too, they found a couple of asteroids with volcanic activity that were on it at one time or another that also probably came from a planet that was fully formed. So this planet was 5 times the size of Earth. It always cracks me up because people always talk about Nibiru being 5 times the size of Earth. Well, what probably really and truly happened is Nibiru probably existed. And on one of those passes, it got too close to Jupiter and got caught.
And Jupiter broke it up. Yeah.
And Jupiter destroyed it. And whatever was left went fleeing throughout the solar system, wreaking havoc on Venus, on Earth, on Mars. It was just, Mars probably took the brunt of it because Mars was the closest one to it.
It would have been like taking a shotgun into a melon patch. It would have destroyed everything in its way. Oh, we lost Joe.
Where'd he go?
I don't know. He's on his pad. He's on his pad because his other machines are down, and so.
Joe.
But he'll figure it out. I don't have the link to send him to him because I'm not in the studio as I was before. But
bummer.
But yeah, I mean that's so right that the 5th planet destroyed by Jupiter, it would have been like a shotgun blast into the inner planets, and it would have caused all kinds of destruction. So, you know.
So where does the dark matter fit into all of it?
Not around here.
Yeah, I don't think dark matter would have had anything to do with the planet breaking up.
Well, just in general.
But it's so far out from us. I mean, it's so what's the nearest?
We'd have to actually leave the galaxy to get to it, wouldn't we?
Well, it comprises up. Yeah, we probably have to leave the galaxy, but it comprises up 90, depending on who you want to believe, 92 to 98% of all of the light, all of the dark matter. But they don't know what the hell it is. They talk about it, but they have not a clue what it is. Hey Joe, how you doing? They don't have a clue what it is. They just, oh, it's dark matter. Okay, well, tell me what dark matter is.
It.
I don't know what dark matter is, but I'm telling you it's dark matter. We know what antimatter is.
Yeah,
we're talking about using antimatter for fuel in the future. And dark matter could maybe be a fuel in itself, but for some reason, we're just like, what's that, Brim? No, so as far as I know, the longest they've contained antimatter is 150 milliseconds. Yes, exactly. Let me correct myself. 0.150 milliseconds. Yes. Yeah. So not even a full second. No. Yeah. And one day we'll be able to contain it. But really and truly, we're well on our way to cold fission now. So matter of fact, they just had some more full rounded tested experiments that were fabulous. They're building the plant for New York City to run all in New York. So what's interesting about this is, so right now, a reactor for that, it will be about the size of 2 semis. Will run New York. But what's interesting is to run your home and your car, it'll be about the size of a softball. So it'll be interchangeable too, by the way. You can take it out your house, put it in your car, put it in your boat, put it in your plane, do whatever you want with it. So I imagine people will own 3 or 4 of these softball-sized reactors and just place them where they need them when they need them. And let me tell you, if I remember my science correctly, a reactor, even a softball size, will probably be around for 100,000 years or more, unless they design them to be less, and then they're probably still talking 10,000 years. These things are not like they're not like nuclear reactors. Once they achieve, it's like the sun actually. Yeah. Once it achieves fission, it keeps going until it dies.
It continues refueling itself until it runs out of fuel. Like our sun will eventually run out of fuel, and it will collapse on itself and turn into a different kind of star.
So
That's hundreds of millions of years
reactor,
away from now.
a big reactor will probably last a couple 100,000 years. A small reactor probably 10 or 20,000 years.
Oh, lost him again.
Lost him again. So I've been watching this recurring, theme of Terrence Howard, like an actor. I guess he was, he studied physics or something like that. He was a physicist.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the Joe Rogan show.
Well, I'm gonna shoot
talking
this
about
damn
how
thing.
Planets were birthed
Oh,
from
really? Yeah,
the
I'm just gonna
suns.
shoot this thing.
Yeah.
And then I saw something recently talking about how they just recently discovered a massive hole in the middle of the sun that is like 20 times the size of planet Earth.
Oh yeah, they find him all the time. That's what's creepy. They seen one that was just huge, and it was so creepy when you seen it on the picture because it looked like a black hole inside the sun. It wasn't, but that's what it looked like. And it could easily engulf planet Earth up, easy, probably 20, maybe even 100 times. It was huge. It's one of those things that we don't understand how the sun works, and then we don't understand solar flares and stuff like that. We have an idea of kind of sort of how they work, but in reality, our science is still lacking, to say the best.
We don't have enough data. We can't put enough instruments around the sun to collect them because the closer you get to it, the faster they destroy. But it is not a solid. It is a giant ball of plasma. So I would imagine all the time it's like boiling water. There's like boiling water has all those bubbles coming up. There's empty spaces all the time inside the sun that open and collapse and open and collapse. Why? I don't know, but it's just a ball of gas.
See, we can't live on Jupiter. We might be living on some of Jupiter's moons and some of Saturn's moons, but not Jupiter or Saturn. They're just the overall weight is in the gravity is too much. Matter of fact, if Earth got caught by the gravity, it would crush it into like a little size of a penny.
Yeah, we'd be broken up into a beach. Be turned into pebbles. Stand.
It would just be horrible. See how it works out. Rainy. You got a couple of those now. So when you talk about James Webb, or when you talk about any or the Hubble or anything like that, so Hubble's limited in what it can do, but it's done a lot. I don't want to take any credit from it. James Webb is different. So James Webb can see through an atmosphere. Yes, so it can pass through an atmosphere when it's beaming out into space and going to wherever. It can actually pass through an atmosphere. So one of the things that's helped science, and one of the reasons our government has decided to come out on the extraterrestrial thing, is because they found at least 7 planets, or I think 9 planets with hydrocarbons on it.
Fluorocarbons.
Yeah, for the type that can only be made by an industrial society,
by some sort of mechanical fossil fuel burning device.
It's not something that is naturally occurring. It's something that had to be created by science. So those are big things. And then we found planets that are much more capable to sustain life like ours, better than our planet does, which tells you maybe we're not native to this planet. See, we always
not only better than our planet as far as I guess the gases on it, but larger, like 2 and 3 times as large. So how many more people could we bring over there?
So let me aggravate our listeners. So anyway it goes, we're not native to planet Earth, okay? Y'all can get as angry with me as you want, but anyway it goes, we're not native to planet Earth. And I can prove it. So we got a theory for everybody. So you believe that God put us here, then God put us here. But we weren't born here. God said, okay, we put some Play-Doh together, put a spark in it, poop, and there's Adam. And then I took one of Adam's Eve and made Eve. So that's how they say we got here. And then, of course, what are you talking about? Well, it's panspermia, where the building blocks of Earth were brought here from another world deep out in space and created life on this planet. Either way, we weren't native to here. Life came from another place.
Well, there's actually two versions of panspermia. There's non-directed and directed. The non-directed is just like amino acids and building blocks of life are traveling along on meteors and asteroids and comets and hitting planets that can sustain life, and that's like not intelligent. No intelligence behind it. The directed
The aliens
panspermia,
got Jay.
an intelligence is taking a
The
device.
alien took Jay.
Yeah, I'm here. But they take a device, a meteor, as a comet, some sort of spatial body, and they inject the building blocks of life, and then certain kinds of DNAs of creatures they want to eventually evolve on the planet, and then they direct those objects at these planets that can sustain life. So there's two types of panspermia.
Well, we see that's what we're talking about. Extraterrestrials. There's always a theory that ET put us here, but anyway it goes.
What about the simulation theory? You guys forgot about that one.
What? Spit it out.
Simulation theory, that it's like a simulation. It's not what it really seems to be, maybe.
I mean, it seems to me, though, that theory only came about after the movie The Matrix came out.
Oh, see, I don't think of it in that sense. I almost think of it, though, as like it's part of the imagination in a way. And I mean, we have, it's almost spiritual for me. For me, I don't even think simulation would be the right word, but imagine we have our souls, right? Souls, spirits. And I hear metaphysical people, like people that are into astrology and, you know, the new age kind of stuff, talking about higher selves and lower selves. You know, like we have a higher self. Well, what if that higher self is being played out, or lower self, and it's just like levels? I don't know, depending on the decisions you make in your life, and you're kind of just in this, it almost feels like a video game, that you play based on, you know, what you're, and not real life GTA or anything, but I mean, people are out there doing that kind of stuff. Like people, there's you create your reality in a way, and then that dictates your destiny, whether or not you're going to end up matching up with a higher self or a lower self. But it's, and when I say simulation, I don't necessarily mean like a matrix that you're entering into or something. I don't know. I don't know. I've just heard that term floated around a lot, and I wanted to know how it fit into these theories.
That's people looking for something different than what we were talking about. And what gets me about even them is it probably is a higher self. It just takes a while to get there. So I look at it a little different than ever. So let's look at planet Earth today with all 8 billion of our souls on here. Who on this planet really has a soul that could really move upward, say 2 or 3, maybe 4? I don't think there's anybody.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody in the soul. I don't even think the Dalai Lama could move more than 2. So what does that leave all the rest of us?
Well, I think that it's all happened before. I think I've lived my life before. Okay.
Yeah,
like I'm certain of it. And even though I'm sitting in this moment and it feels like a brand new moment, today was a brand new day, I still feel like there's this, that I've been through it before, you know? The deja vu comes and goes, and I've had the experience of knowing that I've lived this life before several times, but it gets to this point where, okay, well, maybe I've not made it to this point yet. Maybe this is a brand new point that, you know, I've reached or something. But right now it just seems this having more chances to come back to get it right has something to do with, you know, maybe a collective. Like we're not all gonna nobody's able to get to this like higher place because we're all supposed to get to it together, like collectively, a whole planet, you know, all in one.
That is a good theory. There's a theory also thrown out about the fact that this is a training ground for souls, for our souls, that for whatever reason we're kicked out of the higher place. We did something wrong, or we're maybe we're infants, we're toddlers, we're teenagers, and this is our school.
Well,
And
that's
then,
what brings me back to, I have this ongoing dilemma, of course, of like God. It brings me back to having a soul and what is the purpose of it. If we're here to learn something, it's got to be for a reason, right? Like,
the alleged reason is to get to the higher plane.
But the problem for most humans is they don't understand the reason. They don't understand where you're going. So let's just say that our souls are traveling, and whatever reason we're being sent here or sent there. You have to look at it a little bit differently. There are 100 trillion billion planets just in our galaxy alone. Just in our galaxy. And there's at least that many galaxies. So that means you would have to travel level by level by level, which means no human alive today is much more than an ant in the grand scheme of things. We're just trying to get up. We're just trying to get up the little hill so that we can go to the next hill. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that however we're living this life, and so we don't have to repeat it again, and we can just go up to the next little hill, the next little bit. But it's only a step. It's not like we're making big leaps. So when people tell you, "Oh, our consciousness is going here," well, really? So you're telling me you got a higher consciousness than an extraterrestrial that may be 100 million years old? That's not even possible. So it's not even a realm of truth. That's people wishing for stuff because they've either had a bad life or they've had other things going on in their life that they're trying to escape away from. In reality, though, we're just humans and we're babies. I mean, our planet is only 4 billion years old in a galaxy that's 14.5 billion years old. Life on this planet is less than 2 million years. I mean, we're not even old as the freaking dolphins.
Well, I think that has to do with the fact
who's
that
more intelligent than us.
I mean, we evolved to this point, and I think there had to have been alien intervention where technology was introduced, technology that we as humans could not even fathom with our little human brains. And, absolutely. And that's what has sped up evolution. It's literally sped time almost. The idea that we're learning things so rapidly, but in a technological way, based on the even entertainment, like based on what we watch and based on what we listen to, it's different than it was 20 years ago and 20 years before that. It's like the music from the 50s was very like it was the fundamentals. And people were crazy over it. Like people were throwing themselves at Elvis Presley and the Beatles and stuff like that. But nowadays, that music is it's like elementary. Like our brains are beyond that. We've evolved to a point where like it's not enough. We need more. We need something that stimulates us and we can enjoy more than,
But that's only partially true because each generation flip-flops. So think of this. The millennials started wearing bell bottoms and listening to music from the 60s. A lot of it. And then the Z-Geners love Elvis Presley, by the way. And not just him, there's quite a few others. So it's almost
I think that's by design. I think that's because
it's every so often we flip backwards. We just do. It's like we take 3 steps forward and then we take 2 steps backwards. And then we take 3 steps forward and then we take 2 steps backwards. Because mankind as a species is not confident about its movements. We're not sure about what's coming next. I mean, we're nervous. The whole planet right now is nervous.
I feel like there's got to be something original out there. Instead of us reliving the 80s and reliving the 90s and all of the fashion being recycled. Like, yeah, everyone's wearing clothes that people wore when I was in like 5th and 6th grade, like the 90s are totally coming back and people are wearing like baggy cargo pants.
That's what I'm saying. 3 steps forward, 2 steps backwards. We just as
but
a
that's
society,
the way it's always been.
And that's one of the things that slows us down. It's
I think
probably
it's by design. I think that's because the people that are it's like that's what they want. They don't want us to move forward. They want us to relive the past over and over again.
I don't think it's them. I think it's us. I don't think it's them. I think humans in general are not a confident. So I meet people every day. The majority of people I meet are not really what I would consider really confident people.
Yeah.
They're they and some of them act like they are, but when you really get them in a corner, they're not. So the real problem here is it's us. We go so far, and then we need something familiar to us, something we can wrap our hands around, something we can hug, something that we can say, okay, I'm familiar with this. It doesn't really work that way for me, but for a lot of people, it does. It's just they feel the need and they need that familiarity. They really need to have it around them. And it's not just somebody said the other day, oh, it's just Americans. No, it's every species I know. We get to a point, even in the communist countries, we get to a point where we still need to go back and say, okay, I was comfortable here, or my dad, mom, or my grandparents were really comfortable here. Let me see if this works for me. And we do it a lot. That's one of the things that slows us down, but it's a good possibility, since you were talking about this earlier, that the computer generation wasn't even supposed to exist. I mean, if you go back and look at the Roswell manifest, one of the things in the Roswell Examiner was a microchip. Remember, in 1950, we didn't have microchips at all.
Tubes.
So
Tube
that's right,
technology.
we were using glass tubes. But somehow or another, when the Examiner put out the three of the things they found at the Roswell crash, one of them was a microchip. One of them was fiber optic wire, and the other one was aircraft aluminum. None of which existed, not even for another 30 years after that. So it's almost like the computer generation itself was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen. We screwed. We found the chip, and we worked it out, and we worked it forward to where we are today.
That's not the only thing they found. There's some other things. Believe it or not, one of them is Velcro. It's in Kurt Corso's book. So Velcro comes from aliens. But the thing that intrigued me was heads-up displays and the contact lenses that they took off of some of the alien bodies. So they always say they have dark black eyes, they're big oval eyes.
Yeah, that's not true.
Apparently they have some sort of coverings like a contact lens that's also like a pad or a computer or some sort of tricorder.
Computer.
It's like a computer, but it's a heads up thing that they can control with their minds and with their eye, their eye behind the contact lens. They can focus on things and click on pages or whatever.
What do you say about that, Joe?
Well, if any of this what we're talking about is, well, we know that the Greys have those are lens coverings they have that or have computers in them to do all kind of stuff. We know that.
Oh, then dude, what I saw was real.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So they come off. They don't. I have never seen. No one's ever seen them at daytime planet Earth with them off. But there's been many times on the ships and in other locations where they have seen them with them off. And so one of the things we use for abduction criteria is what do their eyes really look like and what color are their eyes. So only someone who will have seen them will know what their eyes are shaped like and look like, and they don't look like big black patches. But the other
what if they look like us?
Well, they sort of look like us.
Their eyes are they're gonna be similar structures to ours.
They're just
they
bigger.
may have differently shaped irises, but they'll have some sort of colored area. The cornea, they'll have a white area, and then they'll have the dark area.
What's so funny about this? If you talk about the reptilians, greys, and humans, all three of them have different colored eyes than we do. They don't have blue and green eyes.
Yeah, allegedly, was it the Arcturians, the tall whites,
red, orange, yellow, they have different colors.
Pink. Their eyes go pink after like 1,000 years of age.
It just depends on who they are, what they're doing, or what families they're in. But still, the whole problem with all this is you've got races that are far beyond us out there. And we're not even talking about the ones that may or may not be visiting the planet. We have races that are way, 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 way beyond us. And people say, well, it's not impossible, really? Yeah. Here we are on our own freaking planet, and we're so far away from the Africans and South Americans, it's not even funny. It's not. I mean, there are people still living shit. Let's talk about the island where they still eat people. I mean, there are still places on this planet where they're still walking around with spears, half naked, and don't know what TVs are, cigarette lighters, any. I mean, freaking cigarette lighter might get you killed because you're doing voodoo or something. So the problem with all this is we know if it's here on our own planet like this, which it shouldn't be, but if it is this way here, then it's got to be like that in other places. And if you're talking races, 1,000, 10, and it's what scares me the most is Some of these races may not be 1,000 or 10,000. They may be 100 million, 500 million years ahead of us.
A billion.
There's no way for us to understand them other than gods. And that's one of the dangers of coming forward, because a lot of humans would consider them gods. They would be like, oh, well, let's worship this god, because they're not going to be using, like the Greys. The Greys don't use a physical technology. So they use their brain, and they make anything they need appear from their hands or their ships or whatever they have with them. So for anybody, even a modern human looking at this, it looks like magic. You're thinking, oh shit, what is this technology? And even though people like me know it's technology, when you see it, you're still going to question its authenticity as technology. You're going to think it's something else.
Yeah.
We have enough research now that we know it's not, but still, the majority of the planet is not going to be like that. 7 billion people are going to be going, oh, thank you, mighty Gray, especially when the Grays change everything, clean up our atmosphere, start feeding the masses. What are you going to think? You're going to think they're gods. You're just going to be, and then, is that wrong? Is that right? Does that help us? Does that hurt us? Does that help us to understand? Does it help us to move forward as a race? And right now, people ask me all the time, well, they interfere? No, they don't, because you only hear two things about any of the races. They're either here to enlighten our species, or, well, basically to take our species out. Well, let's start with the latter. If they were here to take our species out, they would have done it a million years ago, when there was hardly nobody.
I think they're waiting for us to take ourselves out.
Well, in a way, they probably might. You might be right.
They could be, but they also are using this as a resource as well. Don't forget about that.
They are using this as a resource, but on the other side, they're looking at us going, okay, who are these guys going to be in 50 million years? So they look at the universe differently than we do. We look at the universe day by day. They look at the universe every 100 million years. So it's a whole different thing for them. They're not playing the short game like we are. They're playing the really, really long game, which is a whole different thing when you look at it. Humans don't understand the long game. Even humans who try to play the long game on Earth can't really play it that long, because what's the longest human's going to live? An average human's going to live maybe 90 years. And that's going to go up over the next few generations. But still, we're talking 120, 150 years. That's nothing. Freaking turtles live longer than us.
Is that because of like medical advancements that people will end up living longer? Or is it going to be because of the fact that, maybe we'll have learned to not need,
well, here's one for you right after that.
Farming, so there won't be a need for pesticides and GMOs and stuff like.
Johnson & Johnson's already figured out how to turn your telomeres off. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what a telomere starts when you're born, and it starts getting shorter as you get older. So that's your death clock counting down. It's for everybody. It's not for any one human. Every human has telomeres, and they start to count downward. As you start to get older, they go down, 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 until there's nothing left. So then you die of old age if something else hasn't killed you along the way. Well, Johnson & Johnson has figured out how to stop them.
Right.
So
is
right
that
now,
the medication that they introduced that's like the anti-aging medication?
Yeah, so right now they could stop everyone on this planet from aging. With every age, but it's worse than that. One of the secrets they found along the way is a way to reverse aging for 20 to 30 years. So there's something they can give you that will backtrack you 30 years. Then they give you the telomere shot, and that's where it holds your age at. Doesn't mean you're going to live forever, because other things can still kill you. Viruses, diseases, stuff like that. But it's a cure for cancer, from what I understand. So it's one of those things that puts us in a different category. But it's not like the Greys, who have the ability to upload their consciousness to a new host body, not a clone body, but a new host body. Now we are working on that. We've been working on that. The first experiment started in 1995 when this gentleman stuck a chip in his head and said, "I'm going to try to record my memories," and he did. And science realized when he recorded his memories on a chip, oh shit, can we record our consciousness onto a disk or onto a computer thumb drive? So that experiment's been going on now for 30 years.
Actually, I think it started even earlier than that.
Yes, and there has been progress.
In Russia, when they were taking like monkeys, they were taking like there's one. It's a pretty graphic video or film where they surgically remove one monkey's head and put it on another monkey's body. And that monkey, I think, lived for a couple of days or a week or whatever. Very, very graphic and horrible experiment, but that was the idea. Is that, can we transfer consciousness from one body to another? And I think that's where they started that back in the 50s.
So is that where the My Labs come in?
No, my
Well,
labs.
that was Russia that did that, actually.
My labs are different. My labs came in because somewhere along the line, the government, which was probably in the 40s or 50s, probably in the 40s, but the government realized something was going on. So they started tracking people like the Hill case. They started tracking Barney from when he was a kid. He went and seen a shrink, and the shrink said, he told the shrink, I was seeing aliens, blah, blah, blah. So at that point, they assigned a person to him, which I can't remember the colonel at the time, which he was still friends with until he died. In fact, the guy lived with him. And there was two other colonels he was friends with. Colonels are not easy guys to make friends with. First, being a colonel is not an easy rank to get to. That's just before a general. That's a tough rank to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't usually just socialize with anybody. But yet, three of them liked this guy. Now, this was a black guy married to a white woman who also got invited. He was a postman who got invited to the White House.
Yep.
For no real reason other than because he was in interracial marriage. So they were watching this guy. So when he came back, when they got abducted in Canada, when he came back, they knew. They had been watching him. They knew it had happened. As soon as he crossed back into the States, they took him. And you can go by their own things they say. They took razor blade samples. They took hair samples. They took fluid samples. Everything they sounds like a typical C2C disease control operation. It sounds just like it.
Yep, Betty was given an amniocentesis.
Yes, and when they describe some of the beans there, it sounds like C2C doctors. I mean, the people who took them, and this is by their own words, were wearing black shoes, black pants, black shirts, black duckbill caps. This is standard operation for any covert group. All of them, even everybody wears those. Back then, it might only been one or two groups, but all the major groups, even the police groups, wear those today. So it's hard to escape knowing they were taken. I mean, Kathleen Maldron didn't like it when I changed the story because she didn't. It messed up her book, and she should have waited till I came out before she decided to write her book, and it would have been a better book. But I mean, she started saying stuff like, "Oh, they were dropped down digital screens and stuff like that, and all kinds of stuff." But that's not what the Hill said. The Hill said there was pull down maps, not electric or digital maps.
Yeah,
that's Betty's own words. It was a pull down map. She also said it was metal swinging doors. And where do you see metal swinging doors? In a hospital. Or
in a government facility.
Or in a government facility. So, it sounds a lot like they were taken by. And the best part of the whole story is when Betty and Barney were asked about their trip to Canada, neither one could remember the name of the hotel or the name of the place they had breakfast from, which was across the street from the hotel. Yeah. And then later in the day, when they stopped and asked directions, she described him as a fat, white Irish cop, and he described him as a black man. And they're in the same car, remember, sitting next to each other. And that's the descriptions they gave us.
Well, what if they could shapeshift or whatever and manifest into whatever, image, or something? Like, what if they weren't able to, what if they saw
something? They still saw them differently. Why wouldn't you have saw the same thing? If you were a shapeshifter, it would have shaped into one shape.
They saw it at the same time.
I'm not a big fan of shapes. Yeah, they were in the car together, sitting next to each other. They were at the red light, one in the passenger seat, one in the driver's seat, and they asked for directions, and that's the description they gave. That's classic alien abduction 101 is what that is. Classic. I mean, you can't get it. What she described about the hotel, the breakfast, and seeing the guy, that's just classic 101. I mean, you can't get a better thing than that. And then later on, with the 3 sets of memories coming in with Dr. Simons, it's all classic Alien 101. So you had the cover memory, which the government gave. You had the alien memory, and then you had their memories. You had 3 sets of memories, which is what they should have had. And later on, when those memories were broke down, it turned out to be something else. And the thing of it is Betty was never the one who was experimenting on it. It was just Barney. Even though Betty swore she was a contactee, she wasn't. Barney was. He was the one they were watching. He was the one they were interested in.
She did get some information through Barney's experiences.
She did.
Because she later on drew that map that did not correlate to any star systems that we knew at that time in the 60s. And then when we had, I think it was 83, actually, they just made a computer program with Macintosh Apple technology where they were able to, reverse the camera on Earth. So instead of looking at the stars from our perspective, you could take the camera from another part of the galaxy and get an idea what the stars look like from that perspective. And when they did that computer program, the thing that she drew perfectly matched up to the Zeta Reticuli system and area. And it was their system looking at our system, not our system looking at theirs. So it was a map of the Zeta Reticuli system with lines and avenues pointing towards Earth. So
the problem with that is
she drew.
But it was done 3 other times, and it gave 3 other places. So I'm not sure what that was, to be honest with you. It's
still today. I think it's still unexplained how she could have drawn that.
Well, actually,
without seeing it,
she said in the thing there was a pull down map. And she looked at the pull down map, and that's where she got it from. The problem with the pull down map, it was probably one of our maps. It probably wasn't an alien map. So, really and truly, I think what she did was make up the map. I'm not even, because she would never. I asked her on many occasions, would you be polygraphed for? And she told me no. So that made me very skeptical. And one of her good friends, Aline, who was friends with us, I used to ask her all the time. I said, why is she so iffy about polygraphs? I said, I'm on her side. I mean, I'm on the hillside. I mean, I don't think the case happened the way it does. I think the abduction happened in Canada and the mid-lab abduction happened in the U.S. But other than that, and then later on, Kathleen admitted that there were several alien mid-lab abductions. So why the biggest one, the one that's most important, she wants to fight about, is beyond me. But people are people.
Let's say we're in contact with her after the fact and let her know that that's what happened, because I think that's where the big failure was. I mean, neither one of them would have realized he had been abducted by aliens were it not for that MyLab abduction in upstate New York.
Yeah. Well, no, Barney knew. So when
I don't think Betty knew. Or maybe he told
Betty,
her. I don't know.
No, Betty didn't know. Barney knew. Barney didn't even tell Betty until after what happened. So all Betty knew for sure was that he used to see a psychologist on a regular basis for things that had happened to him as a child, but he never really said what the things were. He just used to go see, and he's seeing the same psychologist who, by the way, worked for the Air Force. Figure that one out.
Yeah.
And she was the one who assigned the colonel to him. So we know these things. So we know the government had an interest in him and watched him and wanted to know what was going on. But they never, when he died, they never followed Betty around. They never kept tabs on Betty because they knew Betty wasn't the contactee. They knew Barney was. And it wasn't uncommon in the early days for the spouse not to be a contactee. It wasn't. It was later on. Now it is, because more and more find each other because of other means. They find each other.
Or perhaps bloodlines are interested in, they direct these people towards each other, so they do have 2 people they can abduct in one evening instead of just one.
Yeah, but I think it's more than that. I think it has more to do with psychic abilities. I think it really has more to do with which fan. Because remember, the same grade that abduct your grandfather is the same grade that abduct all the way back to the beginning. Yeah. So he's been playing the game. He's like, okay, well, Janine has psychic abilities, these 3 don't. So we stop abducting these 3. We'll keep an eye on this one. On board ship, they put them with people and hope that those people come together, and they usually do.
Oh, he keeps
He's gone again.
He keeps hitting that button. He's got a panic button he's leaning on.
That's funny. Well, it gives a lot to think about in terms of, like, what the, what, 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 the, what the media.
I'm just gonna fling this thing out into the yard.
I was going to say, you must have some sort of panic button you're hitting. It's like, oh no. Well, here's something that might blow everybody's mind too. Is going back to the Bible, the writing in the Bible, they say it limits our lifespan to 120 years, even though prior in the Bible we have guys living 900,000 years, and Methuselah and Noah, they all lived well into their 900s. So I've heard that somewhere there's been like 5 tweakings of our DNA since they made us and we took over the planet. But there's also been several tweakings of not just our DNA but our brains, where they've turned off certain software. And we only now use about 11% of our brain. But think about if we were to open up another 4%, let's say we were at like 15 to 16%. Maybe that's where we have that regeneration thing where it doesn't matter what happens. Someone can shoot you in the heart, and then 5 minutes later you wake up alive again. You don't, pure immortality. We don't know what kind of powers our brains have. So think about the impact of that. What kind of things could we do if we used all 100%?
Probably transverse time and space even. You'd be able to just end up in any eon, like if you wanted to go forward or backward in time, you could.
Hey, Dragon.
That's the Dune prophecy there. I forget what I just heard this somewhere, and I don't remember where. It was last week. Someone said that the reason why the aliens are interested in us is because we're the only species that they know of who, if we had the ability with our brains, can be like the Kwisatz Haderach, be everywhere at once.
Well, maybe
like the definition of God.
Maybe it's a little bit different. So we don't know exactly how we got here. But we do have lots of stories. We have the Dogon and the stories. So we got the stories from the Dogon, but we also got the stories from.
Uh-oh.
Is he gone again?
At least he didn't hit the panic button. Yeah, he's just refreshing, I guess. Lost his signal. But anyway,
what if the literal story? I mean, yes, I think the Bible has been manipulated to control the masses. I think the Bible has been translated so many times it's almost impossible to understand exactly what the original text was supposed to say.
People know. The Vatican knows.
Right. But what if the story of the beginning of the world being created by God, and there even... Check this out. I was thinking about this. Even our credit scores, like if you have something that has gone to collections, that's, by law, they're supposed to drop it in 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
That number 7. That number 7 goes back to the 7 days that it took God to create.
Yeah, 7 deadly sins, 7 holy sacraments.
Yeah, so there's something significant about the story of Christ or the story of God on this planet, and it reflects in almost every aspect of our daily lives, and we take it for granted. We don't even think of the fact that if you look at a calendar, our dates go back to the death of Christ. There's just so much symbology all around us that we don't even see, or some probably do, but it's not talked about really. It's only talked about if you go to church and read the Bible, but I think it's beyond that.
But that God and that Christ came 5,000 years after everybody else. So don't forget that. And let's don't forget the Romans and the Greeks who were 1,000 years before that. Or actually 2,000 years before that.
Well, if you think about it, if God created the world, right, there was this moment where it was literally, if you believe in the whole story of Adam and Eve and all that, it all was a progression, an evolution that included, the paganist theories of.
But Adam and Eve doesn't come from the Bible. It comes 4,000 years before. So Adam and Eve, Noah, quite a few stories that the Christian Bible uses did not come from that Bible. They were already stories before that. This was stories that they decided to include, but were not actually Christian stories. So that's not just that, there's several other stories besides that. And then there's a whole section of the Bible they decided to leave out.
Like the story of Enoch and all that.
Yeah, they left out a lot of stuff. Yeah, so you got a bunch of stories in there that don't
Well,
belong
there's
to the
something they
Bible.
left it out. With the way it really played out is the original Bible was like, I think, 128 different books put together. I think the current King James Bible is 83 or 89 different books put together.
That's a big chunk missing.
It's a huge chunk.
Yeah, it's a big chunk
but
missing.
what happened is the original Bible had all those original stories. It had Enoch. It had, the original stories from the Enuma Elish is what Joe was talking about. That's where we have Zeu Sudra, and there's a couple other. There's like 3 or 4 different guys who are the story of Noah from that religion. But the cool thing is, oh gosh, there's so much to that story. Not only did you have all these gods, many of them. I don't know how many there are in Greek and Roman, but more than we have nowadays. But the 3 main guys were Anu, Enki, and Enlil. So we still have that with God today in the Bible. This is the thing that blows my mind, is that from all these stories is you have the same gods, but they're still split in 3. You got God the Son, God the Father, and God the Holy Spirit. You still have Anu, Enki, and Enlil. And Jesus, the ghost,
and Enlil, weren't they brothers?
Yes, their father is Anu, who's like the chief, god amongst the Anunnaki. But that's where all those stories come from. That's where all those gods come from. All of those gods come from that Sumerian stories, and then they trickle down. And they become Greek, and they become Roman, and they become Norse, and everybody has the same stories. That is impossible without some sort of global connection. The biggest story that blew my mind is the story of Apollo, and in America it's the story of the Great Bear Chief. So it's Apollo and the Great Bear Chief. Their daughters are being sought after by the Great Bear Chief is being sought after by, I forget, the Great Spirit in the sky, and then Apollo's daughters are being sought after by Zeus. So the 2 fathers hide their daughters, and then the gods come and they find them again. Apollo takes his daughters and puts them in the stars right away, and they become the Pleiades. The Great Bear God in the American Indian story is the god finds them, the Great Spirit finds the daughters, and he makes the ground rise up, and it becomes Devil's Tower. And then the Great Spirit turns himself into a giant bear, and he begins to climb the Devil's Tower. And right when he gets to the precipice, the Great Bear Chief takes his daughters and puts them into the stars as the Pleiades. You can't have those 2 almost exactly identical stories from across the planet without some sort of connection. There's a huge connection that we're missing.
And then remember, right now we're only talking about white people stories. We're not talking about Asian stories or African stories or South American stories, which also all play into this. So there's when you go back, because remember, Asians go back 5,000, almost 6,000 years of history. Same thing with the Sumerians, same thing with some of the people in South America. They go back 5,000 or 6,000 years. So well beyond any Bibles or anything written after that.
The Jomon culture, the prehistoric Jomon culture, which is basically Japan and Korea, that civilization is the longest lived civilization on planet Earth to date. They started around 13 to 14,000 BCE and survived all the way well into somewhere between 1500 and 2000 CE.
Yes,
that's a long time, 16 to 18,000 years.
Yes.
No other civilization has done that.
And that's the other part.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Regardless of if there's any credibility when it comes to the white people belief systems or whatever, whether or not Christianity is factual based or if the Bible has any merit, I feel like there is still some type of force that has taken almost complete control, not really, but that literally, like, there's something here on this planet that hates human life, like hates it, wants it to be destroyed, wants the goodness to be destroyed, wants to destroy all happiness in human life, period. And I see it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, it seems like it's a global event, like it's something that takes place not just in individual lives, like not just in anyone's personal storyline, but on a global scale as well.
So have you ever heard of the id? That's what it is, and it's us. It's not any, it's our force. We're the it's not just that, we as a society, if we get on anything together. So when you look at Earth, you look around and say, how many people really, really hate on this planet? There's 8 billion people on this planet. How many really, really hurt? 3 billion at least. So that force is being interjected into our society all the time. All the time.
Like people's pain?
Everything. It's everything that makes you, that makes you the dark you is being put out into society. And it's not an individual. It's not one person. It's 3 billion people. And they're all putting it out together. So if you're walking into that, or you're into that, or you're rounding that, or it's affecting you, you have to get out of it, because it can affect you. There's just so many people on this planet. So we'll go backwards for a few minutes. So the Sumerians say that alien race created them. That's what the Sumerians say. They say a race came here and built 2 great white dome cities because they couldn't breathe the atmosphere on this planet.
One is Ashurbanipal, that city, and the other one is Nineveh.
And then after that, another race, the race that they created, decided, well, you know what, we're omnipotent too. So they created us. Well, not us, but the remnants of us. So they were still part of the original city. It's just they figured, why we're plowing the fields when we can create a race. And that's when the Sumerians' 7 creations of man came around, with us being the last one. And what happened was they had created a race like us, a little short.
No!
Hit that panic button again. Hey, but like I was saying earlier, that's what he's going on, is that there were several experiments made by the Anunnaki to get what they wanted to do the work, because their original workforce, quit on them. So basically, we're like the last experiment.
Well,
just like there's some force that hates life and hates the happiness that can be had in life.
There's some negative forces out there for sure.
There's also the positive too. There's beauty still. There's love. It's like this balance, and it's a sacred balance. I feel
but it's a little different. So when we're talking about the Sumerians, they created a race of slaves to be slaves for them. That's what they created. They wanted somebody to plow the fields and go out, and they did. They did whatever they told. They procreated, did everything they were told. For some reason, the Numos decided, which were the reptilians, that they didn't like this. They came down and started stealing the women, raping the women. The women were brought back pregnant and were having babies. Those babies were born different, but not the way they looked different. They acted different. They became self-aware. So that little reptilian section that every human has is reason we're self-aware. It's the reason we say no or yes, or why you want that. That's what makes us the human race. Believe it or not, that reptilian section is what gives us our humanity.
It gives us our base instincts.
Yeah, it's the reason we took down the Sumerians, took down everybody else, and became the race we are today. Because without it, we would still be the walking along. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. What do you want, ma'am? That would be us. That's not who we are today. So this race, which everybody hates in the reptilians all the time, is the one who made us what we are today. Without the reptilians, we would just be a blind following piece of crap race that did what we were told.
Well, wouldn't that also mimic the story of basically, I don't know where it is. I'm not like a Bible thumper.
Well, no, it would be the other way around. That story would mimic the reptilians, because this happened 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Or actually, most people think it was more like 70,000 years ago. But regardless,
so the idea of like an angelic race challenging God's authority and giving the knowledge to the humans of who they really are,
which could have been us challenging the Sumerians. That could be what the story was. See, that's why you got to be so careful with these stories, because a lot of them are just that. There's always fact in lore and stuff, but in this case, the Sumerians created this, the reptilians changed it, and then we as a society said no more of this, and we brought that race down. Now, if that would have been the heavenly race, we brought it down, but they were not. They were an extraterrestrial race that were doing shit they shouldn't have been doing to us. But what's funny about all of this is the grays don't show up for 5,000 more years, and you can see it for yourself. They start showing up in just not just in Egyptian hieroglyphs, but they started showing up as some of the Egyptians themselves. They just started showing up. Most people think they were sent here to keep the reptilians and humans from getting into a war, but they were here before Christ. But what's so funny about that?
Well, I think there was a war here on the planet, and that one of the things that may be the reason why there's still 4 or 5 different alien species hiding themselves is that perhaps the grays are here, making them fix whatever they messed up.
Yeah, the grays aren't putting up with it. So grays are like our, I guess they're like our guardian angel in a way.
Mediators.
And it's worse than that. A lot of people's spirit guides actually are grays. Grays can look like anything they want. So, but remember this: the grays don't transform themselves. They transform you and your brain. So they can make you see whatever they want. They can make large groups see whatever they want. So, and a lot of times what they do, which is easier for them, is whatever makes you fear, they allow you to see. It's very interesting the way they do it. And so we know they're around. We know that somewhere in the recent times they took the reptilians and the humans and said, we're here now. We work for the light beings. You're going to knock it off, or we're just going to take you out. It's going to be the end of this. And in the very beginning, I always thought that the grays were scared of the reptilians and humans. After doing research for 40 years, I found that no. When the grays are present, you'll see this: the humans will put their heads down, or the reptilians will put their heads down when they walk past them in respect and fear. I guess because of their telekinesis abilities, they're scared of them. So they don't bother them. Plus, their technology seems to be a bit more advanced. But what we need to find out is the real dates, because the dates we were given are bullshit. So thanks to what Jay just said, and thanks to not the Sumerians, thanks to the tsunami that hit India, uncovered those 2 cities that date back to between 12 and 16,000.
No.
Yeah. The city he's talking about in India, just off the coast of India, was buried under ocean for I don't know how many years, thousands, millions of years, hundreds, or at least hundreds of years. That city is actually spoken about in I believe it's called the Mahabharata. When he comes back, we'll get that. But so the city that you're talking about was, I forget the name of it, but it was mentioned in the Mahabharata, or one of the Vedic traditions, where it was destroyed by fire, like fire from heaven.
Yeah, probably laser beams being pummeled.
Some kind of nuclear explosion.
But I mean, so we have cities that we know now that are at least 12 to 16,000 years old. So that changes.
There's 2 in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, and there's another Göbekli. I forget the name of it, but there's 2 in Turkey. Altogether,
there's 7 cities on this planet that date somewhere between 12,000 and 20,000 years. But it's worse than that, because now we know about O negative. We know about blood types that we never knew about before. And we know for 2 million years, man roamed around this planet with O positive blood. And that was it. No brown eyes, O positive blood, RH positive blood, brown eyes, and brown hair. That was it. That was what the race was. That was what we were. We were still part of that slave race, walking around, blah. And then bam, I guess when the reptilians interbred with us, it gave us RH negative, or maybe the grays gave it to us, but somebody gave us RH negative, which was a big thing for humans. I mean, it's a universal donor. It's the purest form of blood known to man. It does a lot for us, except Mother Nature wouldn't have created it, because it's a baby killer. It kills 15 to 30% of all babies born that have that blood.
It's like a natural population quota. it keeps the population at a very steady level.
Mother Nature wouldn't have made that. That had to have been given to us by somebody else, and even
Guess
with
who's
the
O
way it
negative,
kills,
by the way?
huh?
Joe. Guess who's O negative?
The
That's
O negative.
significant.
Well, that
Not
makes
me.
sense.
Not you.
No, I'm A positive.
Ugh.
But
The vampires like you then.
no, there's someone very significant.
Oh, is he? Well, I'm O negative too. I will have to beam into his head then. Carolina, I am O negative and green eyes at that. So I fell into the group. What was funny is I didn't know none of this. We're doing all this research, and I still remember Dee, who's passed away, resting. So we're doing all this research, and one day she goes, "God, Joe, 65% of our contactees are Rh negative." I'm like, "What?" And then we started talking to them, and more than half are green or blue eyed. I was like, "What the f- is this?" Then we realized it was a mutation. Then I got the guys that come work with us, the hematologists to come work with us, very important ones, and they did the maps and all for us, which are on the sites, and it showed us something we didn't understand.
Joe.
Lost it again. I wonder, because I've seen maps of Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings, and you overlay the two on top of each other, and they almost totally coincide, almost dot for dot. I wonder
What
when
about that?
connect.
What about that theory that like the Chewbacca alien was actually like a real type of species, and it was inspired by whatever Bigfoot is?
Well, actually, there is in the Blue Planet Project book. There's two alien species guides, one from Russia, one from America. And the Blue Planet Project book has, and you can get it on Amazon. It's a spiral bound thing, like homebrew kind of book. Allegedly, they have a listing of, and I forget the name of it. I think it starts with a Y, but it's a creature that looks like a Bigfoot. And it describes almost exactly the same, except for that there's no smell about it because they use technology. But it's a giant hairy creature that uses, spaceships to travel through the universe, through our galaxy, and have visited our planet. So yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that they're Bigfoot. I have seen a Bigfoot like really, really up close. They're human. Bigfoot is 100% human. They're on the same line of tree of the genetic path as we are. You're not Homo sapiens, but their faces are 100% human like.
All I can tell you is big feet taste good. What can I tell you? We've barbecued a couple of days.
Joe.
But that's my theory on the Bigfoot thing. I guarantee you there's got to be Bigfoot may have been an inspiration for George Lucas to make Chewbacca, but I think he was probably given some information about this hairy Yeti species that travels through the galaxy here.
I'm going to shoot something. I'm telling y'all, I'm going to shoot.
You got
something.
Martha, don't you?
Where's Martha? Y'all fucking lucky Martha ain't around. I don't know if the phone is bad. Danny, it's just because I'm running off of phone today. We have no internet. We don't know when we're getting it back. Yeah, they're not sure what happened. They know there's a big, massive electrical surge. At first, they thought it was ours because the studio's main ACs went out. The fans
went out at work today for about an hour.
Yeah, they burnt up two of the fan things burnt up, and they had to order. So they're telling me to wait 1 to 6 weeks before I get the parts back in. So we've got ACs. Lucky I keep window units for our company keeps window units for when people's ACs go out. So I put 2 in my house. So that's going on. But the internet is down, and they have no idea what the hell's wrong with it. It acts like it's working. It's funny. Alexa still works, but nothing else works. And it's they don't know what's going on. They brought new modems, new everything. They run new rocks and everything.
So that was another thing I've seen on like conspiracy communities is that the internet is purposefully being, throttled almost like nationwide or worldwide.
Or it could be. It could be that's why I keep a business connection. Most of the time they cancel out the back. But when shit like this happens, there's nothing you can do about it.
Like, there's obviously people trying to work really hard to keep it from completely crashing. You know what I mean? There's probably people out there who are constantly
but you
working
know
on
what?
infrastructure.
The government wouldn't do it because the government wants the internet. The internet keeps Americans, or not just Americans, everyone
keeps
entertained.
people passive.
Yeah, so it's like a pacifier you give to a kid. That's what the internet really is.
Yeah, people would be freaking out right now if they couldn't get on their
Oh, yeah.
TikToks and Facebooks and stuff.
Danny, before we go, I know we're getting close to the end. We got like 6 minutes. So if you're one of those people who don't believe we went to the moon, I'll help you out. Just recently, both India and China posted pictures of the landers on the moon. Yeah, they did. India posted actually Apollo 11. You can see the flag blown down on the ground. You can see all kinds of stuff. You can see tracks. You can see everything. And India, I think it was Apollo 16 or 17. China was Apollo. But these are countries. Remember, China would like to do anything they could to embarrass us because we embarrass them all the time. So you can't really hate on them for that. And in this case, they didn't. They just posted the pictures and said, hey, well, there's where they landed at. So now it's going to be really hard for people to argue about, oh, we didn't go to the moon. So as you can see the damn things on the moon. And better than that, if you've got a decent telescope, you can see them with one of those. So
yeah, you
don't have to take anybody's word anymore. But we went to the moon. We went to the moon, people. What pisses me off is we didn't go to Mars, and that's what all. So when von Braun built the Apollo spaceship, it was not designed for the moon. It was way too big for the moon. That thing was so oversized. Everybody was looking, where the hell is this thing going? I mean, it was.
Oh,
it was way.
It was, yeah. That's a cliffhanger there.
What I know. What was it that was built by von Braun?
Apparently another. I guess a lunar an excursion module that would be on the top of his Saturn V's that was bigger than the ones we sent to the moon. This is first I've heard of it. It was way what?
It's way too big to go to the moon, but. It's a matter of fact, I was listening to a NASA special the other day with von Braun in it. He was talking about how oversized the Apollo was because it was meant to have the thrust to carry us to Mars. I was listening to Elon. Elon's going to Mars. He said, screw you people. I'm going to Mars. He wants to have a spaceship launched by 2035. He wants to go to Mars. He's like, the hell with y'all. And I don't blame him when you got crazy people like Putin running around talking about nuking the planet. What's that, Johnny? You see, I know what time we get. Look, there's a big difference between Xi Jinping and Putin. Xi Jinping really don't want a nuclear war. He would rather become friends with the United States and Europe again and become the richest nation on the planet by far. If he could just figure out how to keep the communists under control and be friends with America and Europe again, we control $80 trillion of the economy. So, yes, we could make them the richest, most powerful nation ever to exist. But you know what we did instead? When they got stupid, we slapped them in the face and pulled all our money back. So now they're teetering on being a third world country again. And it's not what he wanted. But
China, it is a third world country, though.
Yes, well, mostly it is. 350 million of them live like Americans, but the other 1 billion, not so much.
Do they really, though? I feel like most of them are literally living in cram-packed, like sardines, tiny little apartments, and then going to work in factories to make the most menial items to ship back to the U.S. so we can go shop at Walmart and stuff.
Yes, but the problem is we're not buying stuff from them anymore. We're getting it from Taiwan and from the Philippines and from Korea. Yeah. And Vietnam.
In Vietnam, most if you look at your light bulbs, you go to any store, you look at most of the light bulbs you buy now, especially the LED ones, they're going to be made in Vietnam. So almost every country we crushed, we gave them some sort of industry. Japan got, computers and, chips. Taiwan makes the chips for Japan. Think about it. We created that global industry.
But we were going to let China have it all. Just China just couldn't keep their shit under control. And then even with all the hate going on, we were still letting them have it. And then Wuhan let loose a virus, which there's an argument how that virus started. But regardless, Europe and the United States were, well, screw you. And then, of course, Trump put all kind of tariffs on them because of other things they were doing. And then Biden just put more tariffs on them. So we're basically making them a poor country again. They were slated to take over America in the next 20 years, because I think our economy is 36 trillion. Theirs is like 12. And and we would have let them because we wanted to live comfortably. All we needed was, all China ESA has to do is get rid of its military and become the world supplier, and everyone will buy from China. But they're not going to give it their military because, I don't know, they know that they know we're not going to invade. We don't invade anybody.
We
Unless you
don't?
come blow our shit up, we don't care. No, we don't. You've actually got to physically attack us to get us to invade you. Anybody we've invaded, it's because they attacked something to do with something having to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
World War II, what was it? The sinking of the Lusitania? No, that was World War I, wasn't it?
No, this is where one was Lusitania. World War II was
World
Pearl Harbor.
Wasn't a lot of it about like certain countries not wanting to utilize, like they wanted to make their own currency based on their own banking systems versus our Federal Reserve?
I don't know who would want to do that. The only countries wanting to do that right now are China, Russia, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. And the problem is, with the exception of Saudi, none of them have any money. Russia's broke, and China ain't much better shape.
That's why they're going after Ukraine. They're not looking for Nazis; they're looking for money.
I mean, so yeah, they want to make their own money because they need some money coming in. But fighting the U.S. dollar is almost impossible.
Yeah, there are 4 presidents tried to fight the Federal Reserve Bank, and those 4 presidents were shot in public, and those 4 presidents died.
It's just we're at a point where, and they're gonna keep trying because they want to control the currency on the world. They don't want America to have control, but it's not really America that has control. It's the Europeans and America.
It's really the banks. The banking systems have all the real control. There's the Rothschilds, the Bilderbergs, those guys that have the ancient banks.
And they all hate each other.
The bulk, and they do. And the bulk of our Federal Reserve is controlled by, I believe, the Rothschilds, who are a European banking family.
Yeah, so that's the problem. I mean, you've got too many people trying to control everything, and they all hate each other. Somebody was telling me, well, I don't understand why they can't take over the world. I said, because the Skull and Bones hates the Templars.
Too many chefs spoil the soup. That's exactly what we have going on, all planet wide.
They all hate each other, which is good for us, because if any one of them ever gets in control, it's going to be shit to pay.
Yeah.
What's that, Carolyn? Well, nice to see you out in LA. We got friends out in LA. We got some friends joining us in the room from LA. You mean private? No, to get in the queue, you got to be a personal friend of mine. Yes. Like the person that's in the queue right now, she's a friend of mine. It's no, I let people come sit and listen if they want to come sit and listen to the show. It's just, I mean, you can listen other ways on Facebook and other places like that.
You can actually watch us on Roku.
You can watch us on Roku. Well, you can watch us on YouTube too. We're only on one YouTube channel because we got a strike Friday, but you can watch us on all our Facebook channels and everything else. Look, in the end, it's up to us. We're the people. We have the real control. We just don't like using it. We get lazy, but we can use it. We just get to the point where we're like, well, it's too much trouble. Or
well, I mean, in order to gain control back of our facilities and our country and all other kinds of things, we would have to actually wage war on every banking system across the planet, and it would be bloody.
And we've already started that, by the way. As Americans, we've kind of started telling the banking system screw itself. I notice more and more Americans are putting money where it's not associated with banks. They're keeping it out of. Oh, I didn't see her down here. Let me pop you back in. Oh well, I think I'm gonna pop you back in. There you go.
There we go.
It's just Americans in general are getting tired of it, and they. It's not just Americans. Europeans are, the Scandinavian country are. We're tired of being told this, that, and the other thing. We want power.
You shouldn't have to have a certain credit score to buy a house or to buy a car, but you do.
Which has become more and more impossible for like younger generations because of the fact that it's just all this inflation and then the housing bubbles and this and that. It's you have to have a perfect credit score. If you have one blemish in your credit history, you're doomed. You know, like
Yeah.
it's become impossible and increasingly more and more exclusive for the people that are basically already super wealthy. So that's
Or have immaculate credit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Harold, and I guess in a way you're right. Japan is America, but it's because we nuked the piss out of them, took their country over, and just force fed them Western everything, including television. Even their cartoons have American eyes. You never noticed that? Oh yeah, even their
Well, they
cartoons
did it
have
on
American.
purpose, starting in the '60s with Marine Boy. Marine Boy was the first anime cartoon that was specifically targeted at American audiences. All the others were made for Japanese audiences, but they sent them over here and they dubbed them over. Like Speed Racer was not meant for us, but all the eyes have a distinctly Amerasian look to them.
Yeah. What's one thing? No, we're getting ready to get out of here because we got to go. Coming up next is the Outer Round with Michelle DeRoche. How much money you got? I don't get naked for free. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
at least $1 to get him on the pole.
no, it's 99 just to get your shirt off. If you want anything more than that, you better be rich. Is all I got to tell you. No, hey, I used to tell all my stepkids and even my son, it's just as easy to marry a rich person as a poor person.
Yep.
I'm just being honest, man. It is. So we'll pick this conversation up next week because we really didn't get into what we wanted. And no, and I have said, whoever wrote that to me just now, I have said that not God, but Jesus could have been an astronaut. I have said it cost me a good job too. Good paying job at that. Yeah. Well, they never fired me because of it. They never said it was, but they fired me the day after I said it. So, and they gave me excellent references and 2 years severance, and yeah, they didn't want to get sued. All I said was I was talking to somebody and said it is possible that Jesus could have been an extraterrestrial. It would have made a lot of sense for a lot of stuff that went down, and they were just stunned. I mean, they were a religious person. They were just stunned. They were like, I guess it could be true. I said, yeah, it could be true. And I said, you got to remember, a lot of this stuff was written in a way they could understand it in the past. So things that had happened before the Bible was written, before all this became history, they could only take it from the stories that were handed down to them. So when they put it into the Bible, they twisted the stories for more. Because women weren't quite as doggy as they were put into the Bible as. There was actually a little bit more respect back then, especially in the older societies. Well, matter of fact, in some of the older societies, women ran the societies. But that was never included in the Bible.
Matriarchal, yeah.
In the Bible, it was just they were just here for man's servant. Bitches get to work. God dang it.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it was written. And it took a long time. And it still has not broken the mold, even though women have become a little guilty lately about, stacking up like they always, things that they used to bitch about men doing, they're doing themselves now. So.
Well, in New York City, a woman protested. This was years and years ago when I was in college. She didn't like the fact that men could jog through Central Park with their shirts off. So she started jogging and walking through Central Park with her shirt off. And then I think she didn't get arrested until she walked into a store. But it was a store where men could also take their shirts off. It might have been a gym even. So they arrested her and she took the city to court and she won the court case.
Where'd he go?
So now she can, and anyone can go where men can take their shirts off. They can take their shirt off as well, like jogging
through. Do they still have to wear a bra? Is it
no? You can do not have to wear a bra. Completely naked from torso up.
It's been a conversation for a while. Having trouble connecting this. Yeah. Unstable this, unstable that. Can y'all even hear me?
I can
hear you.
Okay, it was just weird coming up. No, there was a lot of that. Matter of fact, it was just there's a lawsuit going on in Cali right now that women should be allowed to go topless. And I'm a guy, so I don't personally care.
I don't either. I mean, my example I've always
And
used is
I
the
grew up
Super
in New
Bowl.
Orleans, so it's not like it's that big of a deal to us
Right.
anyway.
Think about like tribal communities all across the world. Like it's common for women to wear just like necklaces around their necks, or like a lot of tribal communities are completely topless, and that's what
Yeah.
National Geographic was all about for a while. You know.
Yeah, well, and somewhere along down the line, and there are other countries that accept it. It's just the U.S. is always slow to grow. I mean, we
Well,
want
but
to
there's
be
a
more
stigma about
progressive.
it. I mean, if you remember the Super Bowl where Janet Jackson's boob fell out, and I mean her nipple was covered with a sticker or whatever, but uh, everyone freaked out about that. There was huge panic on all the news stations. Yet on the same night, that same weekend, they were showing videos of Americans being beheaded by the ISIL in wherever in the Middle East somewhere. But nobody was offended by the fact that somebody got their head chopped off. And what would you rather see on TV? An inoffensive booby, or some American, or even just anybody getting their head chopped off? I don't want to
Well,
see
I
that.
remember when they were setting them on fire. They finally the news medias were told to stop it before they closed them down. But Rinky, I did say dolphins are smarter than humans. Their brain is 1.5 times the size of us. They have
Yeah,
two additional senses than we do too.
they have a sonic device that they can use to burst the organs of sharks.
Yes, and they also think that in some ways that they're telepathic with each other.
Could be.
It's probably more like a sonic wave than it is anything else, but it is something we don't possess. And remember this: who is the smart one? The guy who lives on a quarter of the planet, or the guy who lives on 3/4 of the planet? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they live on 3/4 of the planet. We live on a quarter of it. I don't know. It's just you just gotta wonder sometimes. Well, remember this, people. We live in our society, but an agrarian society would not live the way we do, and the dolphins would be considered an agrarian society. They live with nature, and it doesn't mean they're dumb. It doesn't even mean there's not something in the ocean somewhere.
It's even been documented that they herd shoals of fish. They herd huge schools of fish. They keep them in a certain area when they're hungry. They do this. That's intelligent behavior. That's the kind of stuff we do. We herd animals to keep them in an area, and when we need to use them, then we slaughter them for food.
And remember this: there's only 2 animals on this planet that have gone out of their way to save humans. Y'all know what they are: dolphins and dogs. Yeah.
I think there have been a few instances where killer whales have saved a human as well.
Well, there might be, but killer whale is just a big dolphin, so.
Yeah, it is a big aggressive dolphin.
Even though they'll eat a dolphin, they still
and they'll eat humans too. They have eaten humans, but there is some documents where killer whales have assisted humans.
Yeah. So well, the story was in the old days when all this was going on, and the demons were on one side and the humans were on the other side. When the earth cracked and split, the dog jumped across the cavern to be with us.
Yeah, the wolf did.
Yeah, the wolf was. And that's the original story. Yes, and then of course we turned them into what they are today. I have 2 killers in my front room right now, about they big, man. Oh, they killers, and they will eat your toes off, and you'll be running around nub-toed. anyway, we gotta go. I want to thank everyone for stopping by and hanging out. Glad to see everybody stopping in the chat room tonight. Leah, nice to see you. Jay, nice to see you. What about Leah? Oh no, she got like 5 husbands. She does. Wait here. Are you gonna ask her? Hold on, I'll bring her back in. Okay, Ronnie wanted to know how many husbands you had. I told him you had 5 husbands. She might have 6. You better watch it. She's a Mormon, but she's the other way. She gets to have husbands, and it's one of her. And how many of husbands you want? Well, you can apply for a husband. Go online to Leah on her Facebook page and write to her. Can I please be your husband? Y'all are some dumbasses. I swear. Actually, she's a really good person. Y'all should get to know her better. But really, drop her a line anytime. She's a really nice girl. I'm sorry, really nice woman. I shouldn't call her a girl. She's a grown-ass woman now. Well, when I first met her, she was a girl. Now she's a grown-ass woman. Or
I
she's
don't know
going.
if you know him, Leah,
I
but
give
you're
her
muted.
shit all the time, but she's
We
still.
can't hear you, Leah. Your mic is muted.
Leah. I can't unmute it. You got to unmute
So
it.
next
Oh,
week
yeah.
we got to come back and talk about why so many Christians have a hard time thinking God created extraterrestrials.
We need to talk more about why.
I want to have that conversation too.
Oh well, be here next Wednesday. So it was going to be tonight, but we got sidetracked. So look, what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about why Christians feel the need to limit their Creator. Remember, He created you, so if He can create you, He can create anything. So why is there a need to limit the Creator? Just think about that till next week. We'll talk about it next week. We'll also talk about why some contactees are more telepathic than others and feel a need to share, and why some give you the big stiff finger. And I don't know why, but I'll tell you next week. On that note, we got to go. Coming up next, she's already on, is Stop It. Stop it. Go check out The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Passano. When y'all get in there, talk to say, Amelia, I'm hungry. Joe said food.
Yes.
Joe said, send me food. Oh, she's like the food porn queen.
Yep. She makes
I'm
the
not
best
kidding you.
food porn.
She has got the best food porn ever. Yes. Well, you're not going to know what it is until you find out. It's not porn like that. God, don't be disgusting. It's food porn. Yes. It's not like sexual porn. It's food porn. The only way you're going to find out is because what she does is she likes
You have to look at what she cooks. You look at the pictures, you're going to want to eat it.
Yes, she cooks everything you can think of. She's a damn good cook. And she likes to just make sure you're hungry. She'll just keep hitting you with shit all day long.
She's Italian, so she's not going to let you go until you're completely bursting at the seams.
Yes, she's
Jay Roche sounds French.
Yes.
Michelle is.
We're talking about Amelia Pisano, the Italian lady.
Pisano, yeah, she's the Italian girl. She's Amelia Pisano. Pisano. Yeah, Pisano.
That sounds very Italian.
Yeah, it's the Pisano.
Yeah.
She's a mean little thing too, man. She all like this tall, but she's mean as hell. Oh no, I love her though. She's a good friend. But we gotta go, guys. Lee again, thank you. Jay again, thank you, guys and girls. Any moans, groans, bitches, and complaints? Who do you write to? Who do you write to?
Sorry about all the connectivity issues.
Michelle DeRoche. That's who you write to. Michelle DeRoche. She loves hearing complaints. Oh, she loves it. Yes. Especially when they're mean and nasty. She loves those even.
Uh-oh.
That it?
Well, he didn't turn the live stream off, so he's got to come back to do that. So. I don't have access to turn it off anymore right at the moment. Otherwise, I would. There he is.
I was giving this thing a bird finger. Well,
just in time to close us out too.
Yeah, we got to go. I want to thank everyone for stopping in and hanging out with us tonight. Be sure you can moan. You can write to us anytime that you want to. You're always welcome to the chat room to hang out with us. Again, if you are a friend of ours, I will invite you to come hang out in the green room with us. But you got to be a friend. You can't just be some weirdo.
There's already enough weirdos out of the green room. So.
Yeah, nobody can hear you in the green room. You can
Come
hear
on back, Joe.
This, but I am back. Oh wait. Well, okay, we got everybody.
Well,
right. You good? You got anything you want to say before we leave, Leah? Miss Leah?
I guess that just about does it.
Yes. and y'all better watch it. She knows karate
Now
and
there's
shit.
just awkward silence.
Just awkward silence. On that note, goodbye, everybody, and see y'all next week.